Okay, this is Tim Lawless again from CS211, talking about homework 5. I'm seeing that my last video was almost 10 minutes long, so I'll try to keep this one a little bit shorter. Basically, I was slightly unsatisfied by my last program only filling the 20 element array with one random value. So one thought I had was that maybe I could feed, I could convert my random number that my random number function created, feed that back in as a seed, convert it to an integer, feed that being back into the function as a seed, and continue that cycle in getting new random numbers. But I realized that I get kind of a peculiar result with that, and let's just see that. But my thinking in that, I guess, is structurally for the program, the biggest thing is that my random number function is now nested inside my fill array. So I'll just show you the major differences between the two programs is that you can see I've removed this call to random number and we go right to fill array. I've also taken away, for my own sanity, some of the stack, pushing and popping off the stack, some of these functions that while before I was doing out of for sort of practice, they seemed slightly unnecessary. I wasn't, maybe if I were to use these functions with another program, it would be important to preserve that that data in those registers, but for this particular program it wasn't. So I'm only using the stack when necessary. So we jump right to fill array. You can see that I go into fill array, I put some of the necessary values in these S1, 2, and 3 registers that I'm going to use in the fill array loop here. Enter the loop, place the return address back to the return address, I guess, back to the main function here, gets put onto the stack, and I jump into my random number here. So that takes me up to the random number, which is basically the exact same thing. By the end, again, I have sitting in F2 a random double value. So jump back to my random number and collapse the stack from what I just put on there. You see in random number I did save the values that I had created up here for this function. And what I'm trying to do here is convert and place into my A0 for the next random number iteration. So this is the seed value right here. What I've done is I've said, okay, whatever that random number is in F1, I've used this convert double to word. So what that does is it says it takes the value that's the double value that's spread across F2, F2 and F3, I guess, and places an equivalent word into F1. So that does that, and then from there I'm able to take it out of F1, put it into A0, which will be my parameter or my argument for the next random number, and then test to see if my loop is done. If it's not, I kick back up to fill loop, again preserve that return address, jump into random number, essentially with a new seed. So that happens over and over again until it's done, and then basically we go back up top to we return to fill array here, jump into print array, and from there it's basically the identical program. So just to show you some of the results I had from that, which I thought were kind of peculiar, if I go over and let's see, assemble, and I go ahead and put in, again, let's do the same number, 9973, and I run that, after probably the first, I think by the third iteration, what's happened is this random number. So essentially what I've determined is happening here is we get our first random number, which is the same one. It was that 7.002. That's fed through. And the next number we get is this 32.56. And as I said before, our next seed is a sort of an integer word interpretation of this double. So what gets fed back into the random number generators as a seed, the remainder here, the decimal point, gets lopped off, and we just have the number 32. So what keeps happening is over and over again after this point, we're just getting the number 32 as the seed, because any difference that would have happened here, again, and it stops, but any sort of variation would have gone away. So so that was sort of strange results, and something to maybe continue sort of trying and playing with ways to vary how that conversion from a double to an integer to a new seed sort of happens. So something I was thinking about, just wanted to show you. I'll go ahead and show you one other. We'll run it one more time. Let's assemble again, and I'm going to try the number 500. And something about that value 32, which I don't know exactly why that's happening, but again, same exact results here, where we do get essentially a random number, a second random number that seems to always be leading with 32. We lose this decimal portion of the double, and after that, it's our familiar 32.041, which is what you get if you feed 32 in. So just to show you that too, I'm gonna feed 32 in, and just see what kind of weird results I get for that. So if I just put in the number 32, and as I sort of suspected, we get all the same value, because again, it just happens one step earlier. We lose that decimal portion, and the C gets put in over and over again. So that's it. Thought you'd like to maybe see that, and bye-bye.